Mrs. Donnelly. Imagine how awful the name Lilibet Diana sounds with an Aussie accent. Imagine how awful the name Lilibet Diana sounds with an Aussie accent. Lilibet Diana. Lilibet Diana. I'm an Aussie, so I can say it. Yeah, it's, as I've said before, not the most mellifluous sounding, is it? No shade to the child, she didn't choose it. Little Betty Di. Betty Di. Betty Di. Betty Di Di. Yes, Lily is much nicer. Lily Mountbatten Windsor, that's rather lovely. Princess Lily. That's lovely. But Lilibet Diana? Ah! Welcome to the broadcast, everybody. I had a little catch-up this week with a lady friend who was in attendance at the Noble Order of the Naughty Garter Stocking, or whatever it's called, you know, the thing a couple of days ago. The Order of the Garter, she was there. And she was trying to convey to me William's fury. And it's no accident that he was not pictured with Harry over the last week or two. Absolutely no accident whatsoever. I know they were away in Wales on one occasion. But trust me, my dears, as a Christian, William will eventually, hopefully, be able to find it in his heart to forgive Harry, because he understands his brother and his brother's demons, but forgetting is quite a different matter altogether. Even those of us who find it in our hearts, you know, the capability to forgive, and I'm such a great believer in forgiveness, it's the forgetting that can be even more difficult once you've learned to forgive people. It's the forgetting. William doesn't forget, and what I've heard is that moment, you know, there were already fires being ignited, but it was the night of the Oprah interview when they besmirched Catherine. That was when they poured petroleum onto those embers and it all flared up. And for William, there was, I'm trying not to understate, there was no way back when they did that. Not just to his legacy, the reputation of the Royals, which have affected all their Caribbean tours this year. They're getting 10 times the amount of criticism that they would otherwise have done because of Harry and what he allowed his wife to say. And the way that they spoke about his wife and Catherine. She owned it. She owned it. She apologized. She came to me with, great blooms of flowers, and I totally forgive her, you know. I mean, this peasant came apologizing to me, the Hollywood star. Didn't go down well, loves. It really didn't go down, so that fury is still there. Okay, let's do a quick fashion parade. The Cambridges attended a memorial service of remembrance for the Grenfell Tower tragedy where 72 people burned to death 5 years ago. I can't believe it was 5 years ago. Can you, those of you in the kingdom who remember? It seems like yesterday to me that horrific event took place. And the Cambridges attended. Catherine wore white, a white dress in pure Italian silk from Susanna, with a scattering of dark buttons for easy access. She wore two-tone pumps in black and beige, and she had a beige clutch with pearl earrings. Looked very lovely, and they joined bereaved family and friends to remember those victims. They received a lot of praise from the community for coming to hear stories and show their respects. And as you can see from the photographs, enough time has passed now for bittersweet memories, fond recollections, and gentle humour among the more sombre reflections and the profound grief of that community. And they got the mix just right. The Queen was missed at Royal Ascot, but Camilla did very well. I thought she looked absolutely resplendent in that cool icy blue hat. I love that hat. It complements her sort of platinum locks, doesn't it? Or blondish locks. Really lovely. And Sophie, I adored her dress in this pale mauvish pink. I love the neckline. The hat's fabulous. Anne was in tawny colours in that hat. A brown fascination it was with the lighter top. And the headband bandit struck again, our darling Beatrice. There she is, and there's her headband. But actually I loved that dress she was wearing. A really wonderful floral confection. But why does she have to look startled all the time? Oh, Beatrice, dear. The Beatrice in the headlights. Nice to see her kissy-kissy with Uncle Charlie. And look at Zara's pom-poms. sharing an embrace with the divine Marie Christine, Princess Michael of Kent. I was a bit taken back by Zara's dress to begin with, and I thought, oh, how ugly. But a closer look, actually, I rather like it. It's unusual, but it's very Zara, and there's something about it that I rather enjoy. And that hat I like as well, but it does remind me of, you know, those little puffs that you use for the body. The royal fellas were handsome in their toppers. Look lovely. You know, girls get all the fun, though, don't they? I mean, the royal men can jazz it up a bit with a pink tie, or, you know, the odd accessory to jazz things up a little bit and have a bit more fun. But, you know, it's the ladies get all the fun with the wardrobe, don't they? The men get the fuzzy end of the lollipop. I dread going to occasions where I've got no option other than to wear a suit. I feel very restricted and rather dull. And it's not that I like to dress up extravagantly all the time. I know some of you might like to think that I waltz around in a crown and jewels all day, but I don't. I actually prefer to wear black and just let my face do the talking, dear. I don't need to gild the lily with any extravagances. Unless it's a cocktail party, you know, a grand soirée, and then, of course, the vivid colours and the jewels will come out. Something very fun, very exotic, or, you know, some elite members club or a sex party, then, you know, all bets are off, my dear, and it comes out. But, you know, generally speaking, people can clock exactly who I am just from my appearance. They can see that I'm, you know, an androgyne, something rather exotic, and they can get the measure of me. But when I'm forced into some boring, sober suit, most people just mistake me for a lesbian. Carol wore Kate's dress, I see, or a version of the same dress, one that we've seen Kate wear before, that lovely pink dress, although she did take some criticism, I noticed in my comments, for the fact that it was a button-down number, you know, what is it, they call it a shirt dress. And, you know, you might have a good point, actually. This is Royal Ascot. We need to keep some standards, don't we, lovely as the dress is. But it was great to see her having fun. She really looks like great fun. I rather loved her fishnet hat. That looked very nice, I thought, and she always looks like she's having fun with hubby. It should also be noted that the Harkles received praise from some of those in the Grenfell community, the Hub Community Kitchen, who we know that Meghan worked for and volunteered with, and many people from that hub praised Meghan for staying in touch with the kitchen over the course of time. And Meghan left a voice note, apparently, asking about their families and children. And they said that she's sent flowers and chocolates and pictures and phoned in since the tragedy, and the women of this hub have taken to social media and showered them in praise, saying that they're genuinely kind, genuinely generous people. And I take all of that on board, unlike some of you. They've done only good things for this hub kitchen, and they're spoken very highly of by the people there. So I don't discount that. But, you know, what puts many people off and is uncomfortable reading to me is, you know, they sent a letter, the Harkles sent a letter to this hub about a year ago with some cakes, with some of these niceties. And you look through it, you look through this letter, which only really has to say, dear friends, missing you, thought I'd drop you a line and some cakes, keep up the good work. What you're doing is so meaningful and we're 100% behind you. In my view, that's the way you do it. What I saw in this letter was a study in white saviorism, regardless of what colour Meghan considers herself. Okay, whatever saviorism you want to call it. White saviorism, black saviorism, ginger saviorism, yellow with pink polka dots, whatever it is. It was this saviour complex I saw in the letter. I haven't got the time to read it all out. I'll flash it up on the screen. I couldn't get a great image of it. But it is quite clear when you read through this thing that it's not designed for them. It's not designed for the women. It's designed for a public airing. It's designed to be seen. Rather like some of us feel that the letters she curlicued to her father in that oh so meticulous handwriting might not have just been intended for private viewing. Dare we say it in case we get sued? Some of us feel that way, and I felt that way about this letter that she wrote to the hub. It was blatantly written to be publicised and shared on social media. And that's the trouble, because it doesn't come across as altruistic in any way, and it comes across as virtue signalling, and using their kind gesture and their warmth, which has been praised by these women, using it to create a sort of, to bask in the afterglow of it. You know, aren't they wonderful? Aren't they kind? Aren't they lovely? It's also contrived, isn't it? And I was thinking to myself, you know that birthday cake for Lily? Isn't it curious how they decided to go with Lilibet, the full name, because didn't they say when she arrived that she would go by the name Lily, implying that they weren't trying to tread on the original Lilibet's toes? That seemed to be the implication because of some of the backlash. But isn't it curious? They didn't ask for Lily to be on the cake. It was very much the branding of Lilibet that they wanted to get out there. Because I'm sure they don't go around calling her Lilibet all the time. I'm pretty sure it's Lily, 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 Lily. But they had to go for the full title, for the full publicity blast, didn't they? Deb Wilson. Meghan acts like what my grandmother would call acting ugly. Bragging about herself, lying, showing off, outward jealousy, airing her dirty laundry. Ugh. What a horrible, hideous thought. Bad-mouthing your family. Yeah, well, that applies to her dad as well, and her sister Thomas and Samantha. That implies she inherited that from them. Catherine is all grace and beauty inside and out. She is royal. Yes, Catherine is a precious gift. She is the perfect pick, and we can only celebrate William's incredible intuition. You know, we can use that as a sign of encouragement, can't we? That he chose so well. He must be so discerning. And he met her at a tender age as well. They're at uni, weren't they? And even with such a sure pick, she was waity Katie all those years, poor gal, because he wanted to be doubly sure. He was, you know, he made such a great... I mean, he was lucky. He was lucky and fortunate to meet her. But he didn't get his head turned by all the various options that he could have done as a young, strapping, virile, hot as hell prince. Did he? He didn't get his head turned, either head. So we must celebrate that fact, and we must celebrate every day the fact that we have somebody as perfect as Catherine, somebody who gets the role. And that links in with this comment from Mary Partridge, who says, my best friend, who is an Austrian countess. It's not Baroness Schrader, is it? My spirit animal, my favourite. Oh, how I adore the Baroness Schrader. I digress. My bestie is an Austrian countess, and she says of Kate Middleton that she is more conservative and will always try harder than someone of the aristocracy. And I agree, you can tell that she takes her role very seriously and will always be loyal to the firm. You know what, Mary Partridge? Brilliant observation. Brilliant observation from you and your friend the Countess. You mark out the fact that she will always try harder than someone of aristocracy. It raises such a brilliant point, because she is not from an aristocratic family or anything titled of that ilk. Unlike Diana, unlike Fergie, who was not strictly an aristocrat, it has to be said, but she has aristocratic ancestry as the descendant of 3 dukes and a viscount, and she knows that world. She's got more in common with Sophie Wessex. You see, lovely gals from lovely homes, lovely families, upper middle class, more middling with Sophie, but exemplary royals. Isn't it wonderful? And I think you're right, the fact that they are not to the manor born, as Lady Spencer was, or Sarah under the auspices of Major Ferguson. They do relish their roles because they were raised, albeit in comfortable surroundings, seeing things from the other side of the fence. seeing things from a different pasture, and understanding the great fortune of being put into the position, the great opportunity, the great chance. And Catherine in particular knew and understood this, and took to the role with such aplomb and such dedication. And William has the absolute joy of knowing that she is never, and I can say it quite confidently, knowing that I will never be proved wrong. And I don't say that about much. Truly, we're all fallible. We don't get everything right. Nobody's the oracle. But I can tell you in full confidence that Catherine, well, first of all, I don't believe that the marriage would ever crumble and fall apart. But even if it did, she would behave impeccably. And that he has that security of knowing, unlike Harry, that if everything were to fracture and fall apart, she would behave impeccably. And as you say, not everyone could do that, including members of the aristocracy, as we saw with Diana and Sarah, receiving all her toe jobs abroad, all the mischief Diana got up to, rightly or wrongly. And that difference in social status between William and Catherine is certainly, in my belief, one of the reasons why she got such a hard time all those years while she was Waity Katie. She was loved and loathed. Or at least, I should say, mocked, given an awful hard time by the press. Much more than Diana in those days of courting, much more than Fergie, much more than Meghan, who got the best press coverage of all of them. This is the inane irony of the whole thing. Me and Tara's, Prince Edward would have made a very attractive and charming king. Charles does need to give some attention to his appearance, especially his hair and teeth. Yes, well, I mentioned his teeth in the last video, just saying I think he could do with a bit of subtle orthodontic work to the bottom teeth, because they're moving all over the place. They don't have to be perfect, but I'm telling you, they are moving fast, and it's going to look like a honky-tonk piano soon. And in fact, it was shown to me in a recent photograph, which I did not like, from Today, that the royal family shared on their website. It was Camilla, who looked great, I've got to say. The Queen, who looked odd in this photograph. That didn't look like the Queen. I thought it was a really bad photograph, actually. Camilla looked great. The Queen didn't look like herself. The lighting wasn't flattering, and her face looked swollen to me, her eyes. It was just the lighting, not the Queen, but they were sort of blanching out the pupils of her eyes. And Charles's teeth, this was exactly what I was telling you about, how his teeth are coming off in photographs, and how it will be a shame if throughout his entire kingship all we can see is janky teeth. And in this photograph, they looked like it'd been on the red wine, actually. They looked rather stained. It was just the photograph. There's nothing particularly especially hideous about his teeth. I didn't think it was very professional, considering that this is an important event, an important moment. And I saw in the very corner, it's the first time I've noticed this, because this was posted on their official accounts, this photograph. It was a company I noticed called Beaumont Creative. Now, I looked it up. Old Miss Marple went to work, and it's no shade to the company, by the way, this Beaumont Creative. They're doing their best and they're getting the good job, so good on them. It's more a shade to whoever commissioned them, because the website, I'm afraid, the work that they present, and it gives no information who they are, must be a friend of a friend that got them in there to work with the royals, but there's no information who they are, who it's run by. It doesn't say whether it's one photographer or an agency. And when it comes to their portfolio, it doesn't give any information of who the people are that are pictured. It's one of those that doesn't give anything away. But also, I thought it was a rather dated-looking website that was not sophisticated. And the images, I'm afraid, are really quite amateurish. They weren't of great quality. So I just thought that was a little bit curious. To some of you it will seem picky, but I am picky. That's what this channel's about. If you don't like picky, don't watch it. I'm here to criticise and celebrate when warranted, and to pick over things that other people might miss. And I don't care to see logos of photographic agencies on official photographs of the royal family. And if that makes me old-fashioned, so be it. Maybe they've just accepted that standards are slipping. And whereas it might fly to have these unpolished images for anybody else, I think it's a shame to bring it to royal news. I didn't see any talent or flair on this website, so I just urge caution to those at the palace who are selecting these individuals who are being charged with important events to capture. And this Beaumont creative say that they are employed, and obviously it's true because they're getting the Queen. They specifically say they work with high-profile royalty and various individuals of that ilk. So I think they should up their game a bit. But I do think a tiny bit of cosmetic work, which would only take a few months with an invisible sort of plastic thing they use, would really pay dividends for the boy. So yes, me and Taras, I agree with you. And, I'm here to have a bit of a bitch with you guys. This is the fun of it. So don't get your knickers in a twist. I think he's exquisite. He's known for having flair, panache, and incredible style. The best dressed man in England, many style tomes will tell you, such as GQ. And I agree with that. He is impeccable. So I just think it would be a shame to not take just a little bit of advice on the teeth there. But yes, Edward would have made an attractive and charming king. Well, I've been praising him lately, haven't I, for being really handsome, and he is. But I don't know, he kind of went off the radar looks-wise throughout much of his life until lately. It seems that high summer through to autumn is going to be a gorgeous season for Edward. I mean, he made a beautiful prince in the springtime of his life, didn't he? Summer went awry a little bit. It didn't grab so much attention in my eyes. But spring and the turning seasons seem to be the seasons of beauty for our Eddie. Beautiful coming into autumn. Beautiful. In regards to Meghan, Aspen327 said, "So true about being dangerous, you can also be charming. Harry reminds me so much of his mother. She was very charming, but could be cunning and mischievous. Prince William is more like his grandma. He's more calm and calculating. He also comes off as someone who's not a pushover. Doesn't he just? We've seen that this week when he put his foot down at the appearance of Prince Andrew on Garter Day. The Duke of York's name appeared in the I was going to say the cast of characters for the show, or whatever you call it, the programme for the procession of Garter Day. So he was due to be there, my dear, but it's William that heralded the charge in tandem with Charles to keep him out of public sight. He knows that he is perceived as the future of the monarchy, and he's got a hell of a lot of years ahead of him, hopefully, where he's still biding his time to take the mantle. And when he takes that mantle, he wants to inherit a monarchy with a good reputation. He's doing the very best he can to keep it that way. So you can understand his plight there. But yes, you say Harry reminds you so much of Diana because she was very charming. And yes, she had that danger too, didn't she? And she was very young, so it's slightly different. She wasn't fully formed, she was still in the oven, baking. And yes, she had that ability to present herself as the perfect wife, to present herself as somebody who was ready to toe the line, and she was able to beguile Charles. Remember, he is a romantic in a way that nobody else in the royal family reaches. He is a romantic at heart, and he was beguiled by what seemed to be a very good match, if not perfect, then a very good match. He was beguiled and charmed, and she showed him the best in her. She concealed the dangers, she concealed her personality disorders very successfully. I'm not coming down on her for having these disorders of the personality. So again, you don't need to get your knickers in a twist. Many people suffer in this way. And if there's any criticism I have of Charles for that period, then it is for jumping in without doing the testing over months and years that is required and that William allowed to elapse. I know Prince Charles was getting on, but who cares? To be honest, the older you have a child as a monarch, the better, because it means that when you die, we will have a younger monarch taking the crown, instead of having to wait for a collection of kings in their 80s taking the crown. So there would have been no harm in holding on longer. That would be my biggest criticism of Charles, because wasn't it she said they'd only met 12 times before they became engaged? But then maybe I'm harsh, because back then in that era, as I'm sure some of my fruits in the audience will tell me, people did get engaged a lot faster. People did get married sooner and quicker. They were more on the hunt for a husband at a young age, a husband or a wife or a spouse. So I've got to give that to them as well. It was different times. Thank you for keeping your channel free of conspiracy theories. You're welcome, my dear. It's frightening to see how some people can go off the deep end so easily. It is absolutely petrifying, I've got to tell you. And it's in the hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands. You might have heard, it reminds me of that Douglas Murray book, The Madness of Crowds. Not that he coined that phrase, but it is the madness of crowds. I would like to add that a very close friend of mine works in the entertainment industry, and she recently had to deal with Meghan and Harry for a big event. She told me that Harry was lovely, but that Meghan was very difficult. She heard another publicist remark that Meghan's antics were a lot. I don't want to go into details because discretion is required, but the demands Meghan made every step of the way were ludicrous. This friend has worked with hundreds of celebrities over a very long career, and she has seen quite a bit. Yes, from my understanding, Meghan has had to rein it in a bit because of all the revelations that have come out over the past couple of years. But what you say is very much in tandem with Jason Knauf, whatever it is. Very much in line with that, very much in line with what we've heard emanating as rumours about her behaviour being very difficult and demanding from Buckingham Palace. And I don't think there's any smoke without fire there. Yellow, orange, red. Lilibet Diana sounds contrived, which it is. It is the most contrived name in the entire history of the world, isn't it? I can't think of another contrivance that outdoes it. And I've met a lot of drag queens, and they put a hell of a lot of thought into their wonderful names, you know. Bag of Chips, Luscious Massacre, Dame Edna Everage, Hinge and Bracket, whoever you can think of, my dear. Nothing is as contrived as Lilibet Diana, Betty Di. Sounds contrived, which it is. My guess is that if the Queen met Lilibet, she did it for the sake of the child who has her royal heritage stolen by Mexit. Well, I would imagine she would be very keen to meet her great-granddaughter. But at least in future she will know that the Queen took time to be with her in the busy days of the Jubilee. Yes, I'm sure the Queen would have loved to have spent more time with Lilibet, but you also have to remember that as well as the busy weekend of the Jubilee, the Queen is also in a great deal of agonising pain that could be seen on her face. And spending any amount of time with anybody where she needs to be attentive and lively is a great drag on her, because I'm led to believe that all she can think about a lot of time is the pain, which breaks my heart. Part of me just wants her to be dosed up on pain relief drugs, you know what I mean, so she can just drift off into the clouds, but obviously that wouldn't be the best thing for her long-term health. And because she can't have her brain clouded while she is in her role as sovereign, so that wouldn't do. But I do just wish such comfort for her and speedy recovery. You know, we still haven't pinpointed exactly what's wrong with the gal, other than episodic mobility problems and old age in general. But I do hope it's something that where at least the pain can be resolved in some way or subdued. That would make for a much happier resolution, wouldn't it? Lovely to see you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the week, and big kisses to all of you. Thanks for dropping in. I'll see you in the next broadcast. If you'd like to treat me to a coffee, my tip jar is in the description box below. Thank you kindly, and toodle pip.